Leaders. Now, I'm sure that's a word that's been tossed around you and at you quite a bit over the past few hours, days, weeks, and years. Leaders of tomorrow, leaders of today. But what does it mean? What attributes does a 21st century leader need to have? What do people need most from their leaders today and tomorrow? Now, I think you need to be brave, really brave. And I know when you think of courageous leaders, you think of those folks who stood implacably and fearlessly anchored in their sense of rightness, willing to pit their ideas against all comers, against the slings and arrows aimed their way. Well, I don't think that's brave enough. I don't think that's good enough for what our shared future will ask of you. I actually don't think it's ever been good enough. See, let me tell you a bit about Wilfrid Laurier, a promising young lawyer at the end of the 19th century who would go on to become my second favorite prime minister. He was raised and educated as a proud Catholic French Canadian, an exemplary representative of one side of the two identities that had come together to found Canada just a few decades before. The two solitudes, the other half being English-speaking Protestant and fiercely loyal to the British Crown, accommodated each other, cooperated together, and generally put up with each other to build our country, but still felt all too well the divisions and fault lines that had led them through almost a millennium of tensions and wars between English and French. It was impressed upon young Wilfrid by his teachers and elders that he must stand up unflinchingly for the values and the identity of his heritage, those beliefs and approaches that were his birthright and would be his legacy. That, they told him, was leadership. But Wilfrid grew to believe otherwise. He realized that it's actually easy to stand fixed, rooted in the conviction that you are right, and either wait for others to come to you or wait for your chance to impose your rightness on others. He saw that it's actually harder to seek compromise, to dig deep into yourself, your ideas and convictions, honestly and rigorously, to see where you can give and where you do need to stand, while opening yourself up to the other point of view to seek out and find that common ground. And that remains Wilfrid Laurier's political legacy more than 100 years later. To let yourself be vulnerable to another point of view, that's what takes true courage. To open yourself to another's convictions and risk being convinced, a little or a lot, of the validity of their perspective. Now that's scary. Discovering that someone you vehemently disagree with might have a point, might even be right. But it shouldn't be scary or threatening, particularly to all of you who have worked so hard these past years to pursue truth, to learn, to grow. Being open to others is what has gradually led Canadians to the understanding that differences can and must be a source of strength, not of weakness. And I say gradually because 20th century Canadian history is filled with counterexamples and terrible setbacks that we're still trying to remedy today, most notably the systemic marginalization and oppression of Indigenous peoples. We're not perfect, of course, but that sense of openness, respect for other points of view, and acceptance of each other really does underpin our approach as we try to solve the great problems of our time. And not because we're nice, but of course we are, but because by bringing together diverse perspectives, you get a much better shot at meeting those challenges. And that's how we come back to you and the leaders the world needs you to be. Leadership has always been about getting people to act in common cause. We're going to build a new country. We're going to war. We're going to the moon. It usually required convincing or coercing a specific group to follow you. And the easiest way to do that has always been through tribal contrasts. They believe in a different God. They speak a different language. They don't want the same things as we do. But the leadership we need most today and in the years to come is leadership that brings people together. That brings diversity to a common cause. This is the antithesis of the polarization, the aggressive nationalism, the identity politics that have grown so common of late. It's harder, of course. It's always been easier to divide than unite. But mostly, it requires true courage. Because if you want to bring people around to your way of thinking, you need to first show them that you are open to theirs. That you are willing to enter into a conversation that might change your mind. Show respect for their point of view, and you have a better chance of actually having them listen to yours. And regardless of what happens, you will have had a genuine exchange that focused on understanding, not on winning a debate or scoring points. And you will both be improved for it. Now, let me be very clear. This is not an endorsement of moral relativism or a declaration that all points of view are valid. Female genital mutilation is wrong, no matter how many generations have practiced it. Anthropogenic climate change is real, no matter how much some folks want to deny it. But here's the question. Do you want to win an argument and feel good about how superior you are? Or do you actually want to change behaviors and beliefs? See, it's been pointed out that one of the many differences between Abraham Lincoln and Jefferson Davis was that Davis preferred to win a debate, while Lincoln would rather win the war. And that's the question. Do you want to win an argument, or do you want to change the world? With malice toward none and charity toward all. Let those words of this country's greatest president guide your ambitions, your hopes for yourselves, your families, your country, your planet. There is no shortage of cynicism and selfishness in the world. Be their answer, their antidote. I am abundantly optimistic about the future because of you. It is yours to make and mold and shape. The world eagerly awaits, indeed requires, your ideas, your initiative, your enterprise, your energy, your passion and compassion, your idealism and your ambition. But remember that true courage is the essential ingredient in all your efforts. Congratulations, class of 2018. Now go change the world. Merci.